shift our focus to the latest coming in from sources in the Health Ministry. The Health Ministry is keen to close e-pharmacies. A group of ministers, when they met, never advocated use of e-pharmacy, and there are legitimate concerns against it, such as possible misuse of data and loss to retail pharmacies. So this is the latest coming in, a big development that has taken place and something we're learning from the group of ministers meet that took place recently. Mayank joining us with more details. Mayank.
See, there is a word of caution from the Health Ministry and all the policymakers in the Health Department concerning e-pharmacies, because they're saying there are multiple levels of concerns in e-pharmacies related to breach of data. And it has been categorically explained that the people who are using e-pharmacies, their data can be misused to target on ads and other things as well, which is completely against the ethics of the medical practices. Apart from that, there are also concerns about the identity and the retail pharmacies which are running in the Indian market. So Health Ministry sources are saying that by giving deep discounts, these e-pharmacies are trying to compromise the market policies and other margins of retail players and their businesses. Some 12 to 13 lakh retail pharmacies can lose their business by as much as 30%. This is what we have been told by top sources in the Health Ministry. So that is why, and due to the nature of the business, it operates from one state to another state while not having a proper license, because when the Drug and Cosmetics Act were formulated in the 90s, it was not, e-pharmacies was not in the business. So on that account, Health Ministry is saying that first it infringes on the data of the users, both on the account that it can be misused for business purpose, as well as it can use to antimicrobial resistance as well.
Okay, concerned over the misuse of data amongst several other concerns, as was discussed in this very important meet. Stay on with us, Mayank. Let me quickly take in a word from Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, also joining us with more details. We're being told, Dr. Bagai, that the Health Ministry is keen on closing e-pharmacies. Your first thoughts, sir?
This is a move in the correct direction, and let me explain why. Most of the pharmacies at the present moment, including the local chemist shops, are in a highly unregulated sector. There is no data control. We don't have a mechanism put in place for capturing a valid prescription. So even a last year's prescription sometimes is used to get the medication. Very often antibiotics are being misused. That's the major cause of rampant antibiotic resistance. Painkillers are being used, and even the scheduled drugs, which are the restricted range drugs, are being used. So I think this is important, that the e-pharmacies should not be allowed to function, at least in the present format. And the local chemist and the pharmacies also need a proper regulation, a valid prescription, dated prescription, and the restricted drugs cannot be given over the counter.
Okay. Dr. Bagai, there are a couple of concerns as per the government. Apart from legality of the business, there's regulating operations of such online pharmacies, maintaining patient data privacy, rampant use of prescription drugs. All of that has been pointed out as some of the causes or rather concerning areas as per sources in the government. But do you think there's a problem with the current business model as well, something that the ministry is not quite convinced of?
I think the business model is primarily looking at the top line. More number of footfalls and therefore more number of sales. We know what the margins are. It ranges anywhere between 20 to 35%. More number of sales mean more number of drugs. We've also seen a lot of the pharmacies are actually pushing medication on their own. Some of and it's a sad thing to say, some of the medical professionals actually have unauthorized pharmacies which are running and they give home delivery. So I think we need a complete clampdown and regulation on the prescription of medication as far as the dispensing is concerned. We need valid prescriptions. We need a data control. We need more authentic information as to what kind of antibiotics are being used for which range of diseases. It's a move in the correct direction for short-term and long-term.
Okay. Well, remember, Dr. Bagai, the country's drug regulator, the DCGI, had also sent show cause notices to 20-odd e-pharmacies very, very recently. So the government certainly weighing in on options, including the possibility of closing down e-pharmacies. But, sir, this entire concept of e-pharmacies is also very, very recent. Perhaps goes back a couple of years ago and more so became very relevant during the COVID phase.
I think the e-pharmacy entire concept has piggybacked on the so-called digitalization of healthcare. But let me mention this very clearly that e-pharmacies is nowhere in the range of what we call as digital or e-healthcare. When we give an online prescription or a video consultation or a teleconsultation, it does not amount to e-pharmacy. So I think e-pharmacy needs to be regulated. It can resurface maybe in some months or years to time, but in a proper format in which there is data control, there is a range of safeguards and ring fencing so that the misuse of drugs and old prescriptions are not being used. My main concern is that the families are self-prescribing the medications. The pharmacists are giving the medication without a doctor's prescription. This very often can be extremely lethal.
Okay, very, very key to what this entire issue is all about, Dr. Bagai. It all comes down to these pharmacies, online platforms, selling drugs without prescriptions, or the ones that are not allowed for retail sale without a proper prescription. In that sense, this could have far-reaching consequences, and that's what the Health Ministry is taking note of. Perhaps certain incidents also that have been spotted in the recent past, that it's now mulling on this change, this move.
Yes, indeed. I've seen it in my own practice. A lot of patients who have been using the old prescriptions just through the e-pharmacy route or even through a telephone phone call through the local pharmacies and chemists, and that is wrong. I must add the two most widely used and abused drugs are antibiotics and painkillers. Both of them can have really serious consequences, especially in small children and the elderly. So I think it's important that we regulate the pharmacy business altogether. We can't have just invoices and paper kind of billing which is done. It has to be formatted in a proper manner so that we have a data and the data is secure.
Okay, in the latest, the group of ministers also did not advocate for e-pharmacies. So this is a decision that may come in days to come. Thank you, Dr. Bagai, for speaking to us here on Times Now. With that, a short break. We'll be right back.